What's happening? What's happening? Let me say this again. What's happening, blues people? Now, I got to talk to my team. There's on the side, there's some old school, like call and response and work songs down there that come out the prison system. We may be playing some of those tonight. I should have spoke to my homie, Dr. Atkins, to see if I can use some of his recordings. Welcome to this evening show, uh, Jack Dappa Blues Radio, and we're talking about the title of the show, as you can see right there. They still need that labor. Redistrict, incarcerated, and worked. The prison planet and the politics of black labor. And let me talk to y'all about something, blues people. Yes, I have, as usual. You could take it down, but yes, as usual, I got a slideshow. Please forgive me because that's what we do when we teach, present, share ideas. Most of you know this. A lot of y'all do this. Um, but I feel like there we go. Let's do this like that because I felt like I was out of the middle on Instagram, right? It says live here. All right, let's see what's going on. Give me a second, y'all. Uh, there we go. We live now on Instagram. Okay, what's happening? What's happening? All right. These last few weeks, and again, we're gonna have a slideshow with this. Mrs. Pearly, could you fix that light? Because it's giving my face a shadow the other way towards me. There you go. Yep. Thank you. Yep. All right. You may have to adjust the camera in a second. But so here's the thing, y'all. We've been talking the last few weeks about the prison planet, right? We've been talking the last few weeks about blues ecology and the blues narrative and how the prison planet has essentially affected the blues people, the stewards of the planet. Um, Today is less of a, and I hate to use the term lecture because they never really were lectures, right? I like the fact of engaging with folk. So I hope this will become more of a conversation than me just talking at y'all, right? However, as we went through the weeks, and I was talking about this concept, which I write my reflections, and I even go deeper on Substack. So you could check that out. I'll throw that link up on Mrs. Pearly or Samuel, or LJ's doing something else, but somebody will throw that link up. All right. I'll get it to you in a second. But I want to talk about how these concepts I've been discussing uh, are actually playing out right now. And playing out, first and foremost, please don't think you're feeling or seeing glee in my personality and my energy, as I say, is playing out right now. Because I am definitely not happy that this is still going on. But it goes to the point I've been saying for some time, the reframing and repositioning of the prison planet, of the plantation system. And we have some great, maybe that's not the right choice of words, but we have some strong examples. And the music, let's not forget that the music reflects this, right? The music of yesteryear, the early blues, the early field hollers, the early work in prison songs really reflect this exploited labor system that essentially, yes? Okay, I don't know what to say about that. Thank you. All right, y'all. So if you see me glitching a bit, not sure. Say that again, y'all. All right, cool.
You are real and not AI.
I'm very real. Somebody said that.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I'm very real. This is definitely not AI. Okay. No, no, I'm not Jamie Foxx. All right, but so work songs, prison songs, blues, Phil hollers. These are vocalized expressions that come out of Black tradition, that comes out of indigenous traditions of the Americas and the diaspora. Uh, really does speak to the idea of the prison planet and the plantation system. Uh, as well as, so I said prison songs because we're going to be discussing how redistricting, incarceration, and exploitative work seem to plague the stewards of this land, you know. Um, and in talking about that, we're still trying to, or not even trying to, the idea is to lay out for you all that this thing continues to kind of feed off of itself and then uh, uh, give itself a new life in a new way. But I don't really even know if it's a new way, right? I don't even know. Like I want to go to, before we go to the cards, the slides, and I start talking, I want to share something, y'all, because this is kind of ridiculous. Uh let's start with my man here. I like this brother. I want y'all to hear this, okay?
Please state your name for the record.
Gary Chambers, representing myself here. I am not surprised by the things that we see happening in our country today, because this is as true to America as it has always been. I was born in 1985. I'm 40 years old. A lot of times when we talk about this history, we like to go back to the 1960s, the 1800s. But when I was born in 1985, there were no Black members of Congress from Louisiana. I was 6 years old when Bill Jeffers was sworn into office. I was 7 years old when Cleo Fields was sworn into office. I was 9 years old when they took him out of office. I'm 40 today, and you're still taking things from Black people. Anybody who has to cheat to win is a sucker. I'm gonna say it again. Anybody who got to cheat to win is a sucker. And you continue to do this because you don't have a better vision. You don't have a better plan. You are your ancestors' children and grandchildren. Thieves, robbers, liars, consistently. Because you'll go to church on Sunday, tell the Lord you love him. Pray, but you ain't praying out of the same Bible I'm praying out of, can't be. Isaiah 1 and 17.
Are you directing this to us?
I am.
Okay. I'm asking that you don't directly. No. I'm asking that we don't be called names. I'm asking.
I didn't call you a name. What did I call you?
Liars.
Do you lie? All men lie. The Bible says that.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Carter, briefly.
Mr. Chairman, this is public comment. The First Amendment allows freedom of speech and expression 100% without limitation. Mr. Chambers, put on the record your full comments, and if you see thievery, I want you to call it out. If you see something else, I want you to call it out. As your First Amendment protection is going to be protected in this building.
I'm not going to be called names. I'm not going to be called names. All right. And what we will do is stay on the four corners of these bills.
You know, that was Louisiana advocate Gary Chambers. He ran for Congress. Unfortunately, he did not win. It was unsuccessful. I follow him on Instagram. I've been following him for some time. I wanted to start there because, we can, going back to thinking about the Delta Regional Authority and Bill Clinton. Prior to Bill Clinton because, if I'm not mistaken, after Bill Clinton, that's when the Democrats. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Mrs. Pearlie as I say this. After Bill Clinton was dethroned, essentially, if I'm not mistaken, whoever's watching with us, whoever's listening, correct me if I'm wrong. After Bill Clinton's dethroning, that's when the Democrats lost control of the House, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, whether they had control of the House or not, the congressmen in the Democratic Party that I guess not functioned in the House was the same men put in office with LBJ. And ironically, as we spoke about within the last couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, Bill Clinton helped to reissue the plantation system of the South. So now we're listening to this young brother, well, younger than I, right, explain his experience when it comes to politics in the South and at what year and age he first sees a Black representative. So now, just to be clear, bring up the first slide, please. I want to give y'all a piece of information of what he was talking about. Okay? Because that's really a big part of the story. What he was essentially discussing. Okay? I'm looking through my notes, y'all. If you if you're wondering what's going on, I'm looking through my notes. Because what ultimately, okay, so I'm sorry. So the reason why we named this, they still need that labor, redistrict, incarcerated, and work, because that was a congressional hearing on how they are redistricting Louisiana based on voting. So they're essentially moving and removing borders in that state for particular voting purposes. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to read you the definition. You could take that off for a second. I want them to see me. I want to read to you the definition of what redistricting is. And this comes off of a government website. And the name of the website is Redistricting State of Louisiana, okay? And it says redistricting is the process of redrawing the boundary lines of districts from which public officials are elected and typically follows the release of each federal decennial census. By law, the legislator is responsible for redistricting the district boundaries in Louisiana. For the state legislator, the U.S. House of Representatives, the state Supreme Court, and other state courts, the Public Service Commissions, and the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. Okay, and in that definition, they put out a call if you wish to submit a redistricting plan for consideration. They send where you can send it to review. You don't. I'll give it to you right now. Okay. I can't put it in because these two things are separate. I'll give it. So I guess what you're saying is I need to. I'll do that next time. Okay. But all right. So Redistricting is like rezoning. It's like urban renewal when it comes to, I guess, voting.
Would you like me, sorry, would you like for me to share this? Would you just send me the link?
Both links, yes, please. That's the link. So the link that you're about to share is the website, Louisiana Redistricting. Okay, and it has information, but there's two sides of the information, right? Just like there's two sides of gentrification, there's two sides of redistricting, and the major takeaway of us talking about it is based on how it informs the prison planet ideology and scholarship, how it informs blues ecology and blues narrative, and how songs of old spoke about this in detail. Right. Matter of fact, I'm gonna look to the side because I'm gonna play this real quick. I know I usually have LJ do this, but I gotta check this out.
Oh, Lord, I woke up this morning, man, I was feeling bad. Whoa, babe, I was feeling bad. Well, I was thinking about the good time, Lord, I once have had. Well, Lord, oh.
So I turned it down a little bit because sometimes I like talking over black spirituals, field hollers, work songs, and prison songs, right? Hey, what's happening, Brother Gabriel? What's happening? The family is giving you the peace and love sign, brother. And hey, shout out to young Don. He's been eagerly awaiting this broadcast. What's happening? Hey, what's happening? So I played that because I want to give you a sense and a feel of what we're talking about. Because the plantation was not a place where crops was grown. It was a system built around land, labor, racial control, surveillance, punishment, and profit. Okay? And restricted movement. And in that, we have songs like this that informs us. We also have takes by what I keep forgetting this brother's name, the real person who was 12 years a slave, right? Something north.
He was from upstate New York, I think.
Right. He essentially was a musician that was kidnapped into slavery, you know. So he his book, his account, which we have his book, and it's really easy to get. I think it's like a cent if you get it digitally and download it, if I'm not mistaken. But he gives us a sense of the landscape and the soundscape of that era that he was in. And the change of landscape and soundscape as well, right? Which is kind of the between slavery and plantation era, more on the slavery, you know. I'm talking about on my Substack. I'm writing it now. I'm sharing some reflections of interviewing Mr. Davis. We every time we go down to Foxfire, we try to catch up with Mr. Davis and his barbecue restaurant where they have hey babe, pass me that right there. It's the orange poster under the handkerchief. The orange poster under the handkerchief. Yep. Thank you. So I will. So at his restaurant, on the land on his restaurant, they have the North Mississippi Hill Country Picnic. Right? He gave this to me the day we interviewed, you know. And so we go there anytime we go to Foxfire, the family and I, we stop at his barbecue joint and get some great food. But I bring him up essentially, and you'll be able to read that as a paid member of my Substack. But I bring him up in that interview up because he was explaining how the plantation ideology and system went on well into the 70s. Like exploited labor really didn't stop until the mid 70s, 1970s, not 1870s. Okay, I'll repeat that. Exploitative labor really didn't stop, and exploitative labor meaning plantation work, cotton picking, and this kind of labor at really what you can consider free labor, you know, and that is kind of what we're going to be discussing. And I have to say this: I don't want to discuss it where I'm just talking at you. I keep saying that. Is anyone chiming in, y'all? All right, y'all got to chime in, because when we talk about redistricting and prison labor and black political power, I'm looking at my notes. If you see my eyes shifting, right? We're not necessarily, well, no, F that. When we're talking about redistricting, prison labor, black political power, and this idea of a prison planet, we are emphatically saying that the plantation complex and the idea of chattel slavery is still in existence. So how is chattel slavery still in existence? Well, when you look at the prison system, and you can see these young boys who kill, what was this guy's name? Fulio, y'all? Julio? A rapper who he was murdered, and they just threw the book at the young brothers, the young men who killed him, essentially. And don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning murder, criminal murder. What I am saying is the prosecutor clearly stated these young men are strong and healthy and can work. So there's a slave labor happening in the prison industrial complex. The prison industrial complex is what essentially replaces the plantation complex. Because remember, we spoke that Angola was a plantation before it became a prison. Right? Throw up the second. So, with that being said, turkeys, we're looking to connect three major topics. Wait, what did Gabriel say? Exactly. That's exactly. Allowing him to live for his sweat equity. What does that sound like? Mind you, I am not suggesting that if you commit a crime, particularly a crime as heinous as murder, you have to, you know what I mean? You have to, like they said on Beretta back in the 70s, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. What I am saying, though, there's a lot of language being thrown around currently that reflect and mirror the idea of prison camps, prison industrial complexes, and the plantation system. And it's very blatant. And I think what really bugs me out about this is that it is essentially coming out of Louisiana right now, which is essentially a slave and plantation state. So we want to talk about redistricting and how political maps shape Black representation and political power. What's the sister's name? The old lady. Everybody call her auntie. The political lady that be going in. She's in Florida, huh? Yeah, the black lady, older black lady. Because she was talking about redistricting some years ago. I feel horrible that I can't remember names. Everybody call her auntie. Anyway, she was talking about redistricting some years back and how the encroachment into her district definitely was reshaping and removing resources out of the communities she serves. Okay, so secondly, no, the other, you know who it is, the older lady with the brown wig, and she be barking on folk on CNN and everything and on the news. She's an older lady.
Brazil or something like that? No,
not Brazil, but she do too. Why you get the name for me? Y'all gotta forgive me. I have so much information in my head. Sometimes I cannot remember everybody's name. But the idea of how the prison system controls not only bodies and movements and yes, Maxine Waters. Thank you, Mrs. Purley. Maxine Waters was talking about this some years ago. Okay, but how the prison system not only controls bodies, movements, and freedom, but it essentially allows for a plantation system, a slave system for that matter, right under our noses. Okay, and then there's labor that folds into all three, because ultimately all of these situations are based on labor, free labor. Which is, again, the idea of Louisiana being ground zero at this point, right? So I would imagine there are folk who believe these three topics seem separate. However, they are extremely connected through the prison planet and through blues ecology. You know something? I got to do it. I got to do it. Y'all know what I'm about to do, right?
When the roll be called in the heaven, I'll answer to my name, brother. When the roll be called in the heaven, I'll answer to my name. When I get to heaven, God knows I'm gonna walk. When I get to heaven, God knows I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna argue with the Father, I'm gonna chat with the Son. I'm gonna talk about the world that I just come from. When the roll be called in the heaven, I'll answer to my name.
I had to do that, y'all. There's no way we can have this conversation without playing those things, right? So these three things are connected, and they're connected through the idea of the prison planet and blues ecology, a history of land, labor, law, punishment, and racial control. Again, the disruption of the stewards of this land. I need y'all to talk to me. Come on, man. I don't want to teach tonight. I want to have a cultural conversation about what we are seeing. Take this down for a second, but are y'all not disturbed by what you're seeing? Or at least if you're not disturbed, what's the good word? Does it not pique an interest? There are multiple, I repeat, multiple communities of people that are being targeted, and the targeting always leads to imprisonment and exploited labor. Some folk, I guess they're being, what is it called when you're removed from the land, right? Exiled. Well, exile is one way to put it. I would not say exile only because, well, in this sense, if we were talking about Black folk, the indigenous folk of the Americas, exile would be the right one. But I'm speaking more of how folk is being picked up and taken out of America, right? I'm speaking about how poor whites are being, and this again reminds me of prior to and during the New Deal, when poor white farmers, poor black farmers were in unison again. Well, let me choose my words correctly. They had the same enemy, which was, I guess you could say, big. I don't want to say the big PH word, but it was more. They were dealing with a big corporation, right? And they were working against or fighting against a big corporation, right? I like that term. Yep. I like that term. And we're seeing this again. So during that era, when the poor black or reclassified as black indigenous who are already put, you okay over there? Yeah. Indigenous who's already removed from land and these different things happen and reclassified and all these things, poor whites, and then it got to a point where it was like, okay, well, if you help us remove these folk who are the reclassified indigenous, the Negroes, then we'll start giving you some benefits. And then we see the idea later, years later, of MLK talking about the subsidies, right? We're seeing this happen now. And I'm just really quite concerned because it's not even outrage that, you know what I'm saying? I'm quite sure a great many of you are desensitized to what we're actually witnessing. And then so you want to say, well, you're an ethnomusicologist, you're a folklorist, right? You holler and play some blues, sometimes by yourself, sometimes with your family. What does this have to do with folklore and ethnomusicology? What does this have to do with the research or study of the pattern of behaviors and interactions and agreed upon folk engagement? I think it has a lot to do with it, because a lot of these agreed upon folk engagements, could they be tactics of resistance or survival or memory, right? So I don't understand why folks is not like, well, no, that's not true. I just said I believe folks are desensitized. So we're trying to, get that feeling back, that emotion back through the music, through the conversation, but also through acknowledging and showing how these things are connected, right? They're connected through daily life. They're connected through not only just memory, land, and labor, but they're connected through time and dimension, because it's happening right now. It is definitely generational. That's right. It's definitely generational. That's right, Mrs. Pearlie. And it's happening right now. It's happening right now. Okay, bring up slide 3. Thank you. So this is why we are using these frameworks, Prison Planet, and Blues Ecology, right? When we talk about these things. Oh, and don't think I'm not going to go. I got another YouTube clip to share. I like the fact that you all appreciate, I guess you could say, my voice in teaching, maybe, but I want this to be a conversation. If we can do the lectures and the teaching. Sometimes we do lectures here, but the courses you could sign up for. We can do the courses somewhere else. But here, this is somewhat of a. Oh, I'm going to start sending out calls for forums and town halls in private space and settings that we can have these conversations as well. Okay. All right. So now we want to define. I don't know. We define this every week. Do we need to?
Read it again.
Okay. I don't want to beat a horse. I do want y'all to understand what we're doing and why it is important. So the prison planet is a larger system of confinement, right? So now, well, I'm gonna break this down. I'll read it because I do have a breakdown. Okay, so the prison planet is a larger system of confinement, surveillance, punishment, policing, labor extraction, and political control. Usually, the last 4 weeks we've been discussing this, I spoke more about surveillance, policing, labor, and the exploitation of land and the disruption of relationship between stewards of land and the land. The new or additional idea I want to bring to this is political control. Political control. And what I want you all to understand, because, and I had a conversation about this the other night when I was moderating something for Piedmont Blues Society. I asked the question, is the blues political? And every one of those blues artists, including myself, we all said yes. The blues is very political, okay? So, how they think we could not remember. How they, 1,000%. 1,000%. 1,000%. So, and it's ironic. So when we go, get back into the political control part, but when we think about what Brother Gabriel said, we think about this idea of reprogramming, the reset, the great reset, right? And I want y'all to understand this is the purpose of oral history and ethnography. Because now we're talking about, when we talk about the reset, take that down for a second, bud. So now we talk about reset, or we talk about amnesia to things that actually happened. We're talking about two narratives living simultaneously in the same space. The one narrative that some want to perpetuate for a reason, and then the other narrative, which is the narrative of the people who remember, experienced, and don't want people to forget. Now, you would find in anthropology and old versions of oral histories the idea of it coming from the ivory tower or the government or those in control equates to framing the narrative, right? Which is what a lot of these collecting of and going around interviewing and gathering data essentially helps to perpetuate the planet, the prison planet system. But on our side of the field, on this other side, is why it's very important to understand that you should be not only documenting everything, really asking questions to people who were there when these things were going on. Now, we know memory is a mother. Some people, when I say some people, there are groups that have what we can call collective memory. And they all share the same exact story when they're repeating it for some strange reason, right? And what ends up happening is it just takes the right moment and possible open-ended question for them to veer off that collective answer, okay? But I will also beg you to understand that collective memory that is shared, that sometimes is the same idea, story, or experience, may not be far-fetched. You know, what is the term? Fiction is stranger than reality. Fiction is stranger than reality, or reality is stranger than fiction. Right, reality is stranger than fiction. So if you happen to end up speaking with someone about a happenstance, right? Let's use Brother Gabriel's example, the Great Depression. And if you could find someone that was of a good, solid age that remembered the experience, ask them some questions, and then you find out 5 or 10 folk give you the same answer. This is telling you something. Now, we talk more about this in Beyond the Romance and all these other courses that we provide. But what I am saying is this is really the purpose of doing this, because there is a reset happening. So, and the crazy thing is, while the reset is happening, they are re-implementing the same plantation prison system right in front of us. And I mean, it doesn't help that some of our people are helping them do it, you know. But we're not going to get into that right now. Just remember the importance of documenting of all histories of people, and not just the people that was there, but the people directly under. That is why, even though I don't want to say I take issue with the WPA slave narrative, I will say I interrogate it very strongly. And I will say that I take it for what it's worth. I think it's a significant body of information. But you do have to always interrogate the idea of who's doing the questioning, to whom, what stage, what era these questions happen, because there is a unique relationship between interviewer and interviewee, particularly in those days. And then there's also, which throughout the entire slave narrative, I shouldn't say entire, because I didn't read all of them. It's like a billion pieces, but as many as I read, they all describe a particular relationship within their own community. So they're right. So they're coming into a space, depending on if they're being interviewed by a white person, and let's be clear, if they're being interviewed by a Black educated person, and they are essentially descendants of slaves or born into slavery, there is still maybe not a disconnect, but a power navigation between these two individuals, particularly at that time, right? So we got to keep these things in mind. We speak more about things like this in the course when you sign up for it, okay? Now, so I just want to drive home that it's very, very, very important to begin documenting, singing songs about it, right? What's up, Mrs. Pearlie?
No, tell them they can start documenting the workbook.
Right. Right. Thank you. So you wanted to get the reflexive workbook, but put that up if we have it so they can see it. The reflexive workbook. This is a good workbook to have. And also, you get these workbooks when you're part of our program. Put up the well. This is a great place to start. This gives you the rundown of how to utilize the African American folklorist ecosystem, and it's also part of the toolkit that I've created and the Beyond the Romance of the Phil course. But once you become a paid member of the African American folklorist ecosystem, you automatically get this. But you can also buy it for $30, and follow it at your leisure. You can always reach out and always follow us here. Okay. All right. But bring.
Great to interview your grandparents.
Yeah, bring that slide back up.
Your elders, because they're the ones keeping the scrolls, whether you know it or not. And they, you know, we have a coded language.
Yes,
So
yes,
we could talk about, you know, how to protect yourself outside so you don't get stopped by the cops, you know, type situation.
yes, absolutely.
So, and you want to dig deeper and start conversations this summer.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
your family.
Yeah, this is this is the one for it. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mrs. Pearly. Put up slide 3. So we're not just talking about confinement in prison. We're talking about another form of confinement. We're talking about voting map can contain political power confinement, or court system can contain possibilities, or labor systems can contain economic freedom, or neighborhood boundary can contain mobility, or prison sentences can contain the body. So now when we're talking about the prison planet, and when we're talking about what's going on in Louisiana right now, specifically, these are the things that we that are being enforced, that we can really sink our teeth into. There's also, I'm looking for this piece with Louisiana verse. Is it Callais? No, that's not what it's called, right? I gotta find the right term because I want y'all to look into this, because it plays into. I'm not as good have as good as memory as Yvette Cornell. She be calling it, boy. It's. I have to find it because I want y'all to look into this, because it also has to do with what we're talking about.
Can I interject and ask you, is what's happening now with the
Louisiana versus Callais is what I'm talking about in the Supreme Court. Okay, I want y'all to look into that. Yes, what do you want?
the Voting Rights Act?
We're going to get into all of that.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So Louisiana, and it's a landmark 6-3 decision. The Supreme Court struck down Louisiana's congressional map as an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. The ruling determined that the state's configuration of a second majority black district was not required by the Voting Rights Act, and unduly prioritized race over other redistricting principles. Okay? So that brings in what you were just talking about, right? And one of the well, you know what? I want to ask y'all, gosh, Garner, why is this significant? Matter of fact, bring me up for a second, boy, please. Why is this significant? Why are we talking about this on the Blues Show? And please jump in. Not all at once. Why is this important on the Blues Show? Because there is merit to this.
You have the blues, and other people need to have the blues about this as well.
That's right. Right. Are y'all gonna answer? Exactly. We got to get some sound effects in here. we got to get some sound effects in here. There we go. Yes. Okay. So let's break this down real quick before we, huh? What's up? That's right. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you, Thomas. 1 billion%. Artists will help in Israel. Absolutely. And when you listen to the blues, or even, hold up.
We're going to have a play called the Buzzalo. They put something down on the floor, as it would be an old dead cow, hog, or something. You used to have boneyards, you know. They used to throw them out on the woods and play called the boneyard. But the buzzer had something to eat. And also the song that we sang was the song that the old people was interpreting, telling the people they didn't care what they do with their body. Just since their soul lay with God. Throw me anywhere in that old field. Throw me anywhere, Lord, 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 in that old field. You may beat and bang me in that old field. Yes, can't Jesus save me in that old field? Don't care how you treat me. Can Jesus meet me in that old field?
Yeah, that's the lady who reminds me of Sister Lot. That's Bessie Jones. Bessie Jones is significant in this entire Prison Planet thing because she was the embodiment. She was a physical memory of Black expression coming out the gullah, right? She was part of the Georgia Sea Island Singers, and her song, her dance, her ring shouts, her games, all essentially was timeless. It was interdimensional, soundscape, landscape of many, or intergenerational, we could say, right? And she also was the one who suggested, put her foot down, and stated, Black spirituals and the gospel should be the sound of the civil rights movement. Excuse me, that was her call. Okay. So now when we speak about this Supreme Court ruling, right? And I'm looking at my notes, so if I look crazy, it doesn't matter really, right? There we go. Trying to stretch out my notes because, you know, God's getting a little old. Anyway, this Supreme Court ruling is ultimately it. I would go as far as saying that it blues. I don't want to say that the blues emerges from disenfranchisement. Let me just start there. I don't want to necessarily say that, because the blues is not just about disenfranchisement. The blues is not just about sorrow and politics. The blues is about it's very sexual. It's about fun. It's comedic, you know, but it is strongly labor induced, right? So when you think about the blues, when you think about work songs, and you can go back to, I got you, Brother Gabriel, leave that up there for a second. When you think about, you can go back to an early Jack Dappa Blues, not early, but my blues narrative series, where I discuss work songs, prison songs, field hollers, the difference and its connection. But when we talk about disenfranchisement, then we're definitely talking about work song, labor song, prison song, the blues, slave seculars, field hollers, and the gospel, hootin' hollering gospel. Hymnal, but hootin' hollering hymnal. What Brother Gabriel said? Copy. Miss Bessie Jones is why. God, there we go. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. She essentially was. I believe Bessie Jones was a folklorist, and we should do a special program about her being a folklorist. I agree. So look, let me do a quick reminder, y'all. Please subscribe to our YouTube. Join the ecosystem. Your voice is part of the ecosystem, okay? Join me on Substack where I break this down in more detail. Get you either physical copies of the African American folklorists or digital copies of the African American folklorists. You can also get a minimum $50 donation gets you a calendar that helps us, right? And it also raises awareness of great scholars of melanation doing the work that you may not have heard of. And when you find out about them and their work, it might talk to you. It might resonate with you, you know. Some great folk doing great work, you know. So now when we're saying disenfranchisement and work song and stuff like this, I want y'all to understand that even though some folk believe that the blues was born during Reconstruction, we know that's not necessarily true, but the particular blues or the particular moment of shift when the folk legend of the community, the one who didn't let the man, you know, essentially the John Henry, right, becomes the quintessential figure, the idea of speaking for freedom, the idea of also, instead of working in unison, working more isolated, right? These things also kind of bring a landscape and feeling to the blues, right? And so now we're talking about the Delta region, and we're speaking about Louisiana specifically, but Arkansas, Mississippi, Texas, these places, even all the way up to Illinois, these places, Kentucky, these places, Alabama, these places really have suffered behind these regimens. But simultaneously, the blues tells that story over a century, even to today, right? So Louisiana's geography hollers the blues because in the bayous, there's essentially the swamps. So you don't just have swamps in Mississippi, right? All right, we'll get back to that. But I thought that would be something that I should share, considering we're talking and working from a space that is essentially timeless and spaceless. What do I mean by that? We're in the past, in the present, and in the future in the same time. We're talking memory, collective and individual and family and tribal, right? And we're talking now. And what happens now affects what's going to happen in the future. And as Thomas says, the artist will share those stories. Oral histories will document those stories. But you got to see what's really going on right now. Matter of fact, before I get to that next slide, let's do a quick share. Oh yeah. I like this one. Mrs. Pearlie.
So I appreciate the other people that I have up here because I had something that I remembered to say, but that was about 7 hours ago. But just to kind of get to it, I'll try to get through as much as I can. The state of Louisiana in 2025 deported multiple children, one of whom was born in New Orleans and had brain cancer. Donald Trump got the pro-life, Bible-thumping Republican Party to say, yes, we want more of that. As a matter of fact, send Gregory Bovino down here to harass more people. So I have no doubt in my mind that the map's going to pass. If y'all can give us less than 0 seats, you would do it. Y'all do this under the orders of somebody that said the Civil Rights Act was harmful to white people, that it caused reverse racism. RFK said that Black children are overfilled on antidepressants and that they need to be reparented on different forms, all of them. Pete Hegseth constantly brings Doug Wilson to the Pentagon to give a prayer service. Doug Wilson is the same pastor that said that slave owners were on strong spiritual ground. I don't have no belief in no morality on anybody that followed Donald Trump. If you wasn't with this map, you wouldn't be underneath this president. You wouldn't be in your party. You would stand up.
All right, so we're not necessarily a political show, but that doesn't mean politics is not part of it. Politics is an essential part of this. So what I want to talk about is the idea of two things that the brother just said. The one, right? The one, the idea that us documenting and teaching how to document, us learning about Black, Indigenous, African American, whatever you want to call it, is harmful to white people. So essentially, and I think about the book, The Half Has Never Been Told, which talks about intercontinental, domestic, if you will, slave industries. And in the conversation, or in the book, the discourse of the book, one of the main points is there were white folk that didn't want to see what they were essentially benefiting from. Now, there's a documentary that's floating around that come out of the 50s. I think it was a PBS or a CBS documentary, and it was during the time they were talking about what is the Rockefeller set it up. The Board of Education was going around interviewing white families. You know, Mrs. Pearlie, see if you could pull this up and send it to me if you could find it. The Board of Education, somebody was going around interviewing white families in the 50s about the Board of Education and should they teach American history in truth, in its honesty. So let's set this up again. I have to say it again. This guy is white man, journalist, perhaps, maybe 54, going around interviewing white families, white folk, about Board of Ed decisions in how they want to teach American history. And this is very, very pivotal to what we're talking about today, as all these terminologies that don't even really reflect what some call Black American, Indigenous American, African American, whatever you call us, it doesn't really reflect us. Other people are really benefiting from it, right? Okay, hold on one second. Thank you. I just didn't want to forget my thought. All right. I'll figure, so essentially, with the not being able to use certain terms, the removal of certain programs in the university is a reflection of this time in the 50s when this guy was going around asking white families about teaching American history, and should we teach the truth about American history? The truth meaning how Blacks, how Indigenous people were treated on this land. And I remember it like yesterday. The white woman goes, "We don't need to know that. We don't want to know that. Why can't we just teach this? I don't think you should teach that." So again, there's this throughway of brushing under the table the disruption of the stewards of the planet for the prison planet to function, and then going back to thinking about the book The Half Has Never Been Told, when global slavery was demolished, but intercontinental domestic slavery and slave states and coming in through Louisiana on a sneak tip between Cuba and Haiti and the Caribbean. Those, and it's documented in the book. The white folk didn't want to know about it. What do you have there, Mrs. Pearlie?
Studs Turkle.
Studs, say what?
That's his name, Studs Turkle.
Okay.
These are a couple of names that they come up. Alex Haley.
Alex Haley, no. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Walter White.
It could be Walter White.
He's a pastor, and he interviewed a lot of people and talked families and officials about lynching and racial violence.
Okay, no. What you want to find is in the 1950s, interviewing white families about teaching American history. Okay, interviewing white families about teaching slavery, teaching about slavery in the 50s. Okay, that might be more specific. Okay, you're 1,000% correct. You're 1,000% correct. There is nothing more stubborn. And you got to understand something. White, black, these colors are constructs, right? Placed on us, right? So I do believe the okay, hold on. If the support for Firm in 1830 was the same as there you have it, 1,000%. What'd you find? Okay, Mrs. Pearlie is looking up what I asked her, because what's going to happen is if she finds it, I'm going to pull it up here. Well, it looked like it was a white woman with dark hair and glasses. She was with her kids. And I mean, it was more than one, but I remember this one white woman, and I don't want to learn about this. My kids don't need to know about this. And the reason why I'm pointing this out, because we keep seeing this. So then when Brother Gabriel goes to amnesia, the amnesia goes to folk not wanting to know what happened. Knowing what happened, but not wanting to know what happened. It's called being able to deny. It's deniability, essentially. Which is why folkloristics, ethnomusicology, a particular version of oral history and ethnography, if it's not connected to what you may think is scientific or what have you, is looked at as not concrete evidence, if you will. I'm all about the evidence. I used to watch Frederick K. Price growing up as a kid. If y'all remember Frederick K. Price, put something in the chat. Frederick K. Price used to come on, and the song I'll never forget was Evidence. Right or wrong? That's right. You remember that, right, babe? Mrs. Pearlie, excuse me. So, we're talking about the evidence that continues. I think I heard that recently some red state has banned the book Roots. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I can't lie. I have so the roots. Yeah.
I'm not coming up again.
All right. So listen, y'all. If I find this video, I will. I'll maybe come back to this chat maybe next week. Come to Substacks. I'll probably put it there. Okay. You put the Substack link up there for them.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
You gotta go all the way up. I'll put it in there again.
Well, you know what? Why was the War of Independence won in Tripoli and not London? I mean, because I have feelings about London too, or the Crown, if you will, as it pertains to the Americas. Because you got to remember, it was Queen Charlotte that essentially put a stamp, if you will, or the into international slavery. And it was a why do I always forget? What are those folk? Not Amish, the other folk. Quakers. It was a Quaker. I can't remember his name. Zonzat. I can't remember his name. It was a Quaker who, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he was running an interracial school. And prior to the Revolutionary War, you could run interracial schools, right? And they were teaching white, black, poor white, black, and mulatto children. And mulatto meant many things. It didn't just mean one drop rule. It didn't just mean white and black. But the reclassification of indigenous fell between Negro and mulatto as well. But we'll get into that another time. But I think it's Von Zat was his name. But what ends up happening is after the Revolutionary War, it becomes illegal to educate black folk, but also have educational spaces interracially. So this dude essentially his house becomes the school. And him and some people were doing this in private. And you don't have to, but I will share with you that the Quakers worked in unison with the Underground Railroad and other different factions of folk that was really looking to liberate the prisoners or the servants and things of this nature. I know for a fact William Still documents Quakers along Tennessee helping move folk through the Delta region, through the South up to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and then they would house them and then help move them along. If my memory serves me correct, Elijah Cox's parents went along the Tennessee and Kentucky border and through Memphis and then up the Mississippi to Michigan. They go over to Canada and come back to Michigan. I bring that up because they were essentially guided and helped by the Quakers, right? So I bring the Quakers up because I believe this cat's name is Von Zat. I forgot his name. If you go to anyone, Jack Dappa Blues or whatever, look up my Charlotte Fortin Gremke podcast. I speak about it there. I speak about him there, right? And W.E.B. Du Bois spoke about these Quakers in Pennsylvania. If I'm not, is it him or no? I think it was him. But anyway, so this Quaker guy writes a letter to Queen Charlotte about what's going on, essentially asking her to put a stop to the madness. You know, I'm not going to say the two of them in isolated fashion put an end to international slavery, but they are part of the mechanism that did, right? And so why are we talking about this? Somebody just mentioned London. I don't know why. Tripoli and London, I don't know why they mentioned that. But the crown plays a great part in what's happened during the Revolutionary War through the Civil War. And I'd go as far as saying we as indigenous folk that being reclassified was betrayed. Because if you look at what happens, they're all, everyone says, as long as I'm not them, who is them? So this starts from, ultimately, I believe what happened was it was like, well, you give us the benefits and I'll give them up. And we see this keep happening over and over again from this time. Right? Okay, where we at? What you say, buddy? Okay. Any questions? Y'all, you know what? I love the dialogue, and not just questions, statements. I saw some great statements.
Any suggestions on topics they would like to talk about?
Sure. You can always email me or DM me topics, culturally relevant topics that has to do with blues narrative, blues ecology, prison planet, ties into folklore, ethnomusicology, and documentation. Because ultimately, most of these conversations show how the world functions, but what we can do in our little bitty spaces. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, don't forget about this. Our program, 12 Ball Blues and Nay. You take our program, 12 Ball Blues and Nay, you take our program, blues, music, folklore, and blues people, folklore, music, or you take our program beyond the romance of the field, and you can essentially, yes? Brooklyn Brew, yo, what up, my dude? How are you, good brother? Yes, yeah, I'm awaiting to hear that song you're doing with Brock. Essentially, if you participate in any one of these courses or workshops, you have the particularly courses, but you possibly we may work it out for the workshops as well. You have the possibility or the ability to participate in our upcoming Porter Parish Granger Blues Festival. We have we have 2 locations. So you know what? I'll tell you the first location in a minute. I cannot drop that. It's a surprise. I'm so excited to work with these folk, but I will tell you that we will be culminating, right? The actual concert will be at the Capitol again, the Capitol Theater in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We had a great time, a great turnout for the first year. My man, John Tavius Willis, great bluesman, great brother. He when at the end of it, everybody's clapping and we were standing there taking pictures, and he leans over, hey, yo, Mr. Pearly, it was a pretty good turnout for a first year. Well, August 8th. And you know the irony of what we're talking about. Do y'all know what August 8th is? I'm going to ask one more time. I'm going to give y'all a couple of minutes to answer. What is August 8th? What is the significance of that date? I like the drums. You know why I like the drums better? Because they remind me of Amiri Baraka blues people. Amiri Baraka. All right, so yes. August 8th is actually second legitimate what people called Juneteenth, right? It is I want to say the first, but it's really the second because the first happened in January. Then August 8th, and what makes August 8th significant? The first two, but August 8th, for what we're talking about, is because the people, not the government, not the colony, not those that assimilated, but the people said we need to designate a date to celebrate what we did. You know, I come across a video. I never want to talk bad about our cousins in the diaspora, but I just don't understand why people continue to try to downplay Black Americans. You know, that was a big thing back in the day. It kind of changed because the idea of reparations. And then so now it's like, well, we're all together, brother. When before it was like you're just a lazy Black American, and that's just being nice. But I came across a video, and you know, our essentially our relatives, if you will, of the diaspora was asked why do we think we're better than Black Americans? And the young brother's response was because we've overcome. They didn't have anything to overcome. They never overcame nothing. You see what we did. You see what we did. And it's like, right. And it's hurtful, you know, but at the same token, it's ludicrous. Because, you know, when I talk about the plantation complex, when I talk about the prison planet, yes, I have focused on the Caribbean. Definitely, particularly for a seminar I took, and it gave me some insight, a lot of insight. But I happen to know the gate of everything starts here. Okay, global culture, global music, global style starts here. And it's like more importantly, because I don't want to cherry pick. I don't want to even get into this kind of debate. I think what I find the problem to be is, and why it's very important to understand the prison planet, and why it's important to understand how the plantation system and how the Black South and the Americas is essential to this idea and this structure. Because if you don't understand that, you'll have people, not just white people that benefit, or I'll just say not just non-Black people who benefit from the prison planet, because it's not just, you know, white folk, because there's a lot of poor white folk that don't benefit from the prison planet, and they're in conflict with us as indigenous stewards because we've been placated against each other. You know what I mean? But non-blues people, but there's also Black folk of the diaspora that essentially don't understand the significance of this space and our people in the disseminating of the prison planet. And when I say disseminated, not as if we went around doing it, but as us being the prototype of either the disruption or the resistance. what's my man's name? Lumemwe? I can't think of his name right now. We'll talk about that another time. Because I'll give you guys, and you can remind me, I'll give you guys a list of international diasporic relatives, you can say, from the Caribbean, from Africa, from South Asia that are, heavily melanated, but they came here to get their strategies from us, so they had us go there, And I mean, it's just what it is. It's just what it is. And this is the place for this dialogue. The African American folklorist is also the place, not only for the dialogue, but for you to engage, interview, and share your findings there as a resource in the archive. Because essentially, we're not looking to pit anyone against each other. We're looking to bring everything together so we can have not just a body of archive, but an understanding. Right? You want to get the toolkit, right? And let me know if you want to. So beyond the romance, that course is about to start. Okay? We're just trying to wait for a few more people to sign up. If you want to participate, sign up. Let me know. Also, Black Junk, which is essentially a course on archives and archiving, but not in the Ivy Tower or collegial sense, more practical to those of you who thank you, Thomas. It's more practical, more close to home, right? Black junk simply just means the idea of your grandmama or your mama or your pops or your cousin, your brother or your sister's auntie. Throw that away. Throw that junk away. Everything to Black folk is junk, right? However, I'm here to challenge that and push back and tell you it's not junk. What you're calling junk is the memory of your being, your people's being, your family, your tribe, possibly your building, your community. And how to identify what you call Black junk to be archived and what to do with it. How to manage it and stuff like this. All right? Did I forget anything, y'all? Huh?
Check out the digital copy.
Right. Check out the digital copies of all of our magazines. Yeah. Please, everyone buy one. Okay? And sign up. $50 minimum donation gets you this. The very first African American Folklorist of the Month calendar, featuring the people on the cover and a whole bunch of great folk on the inside. All of them I have the honor and pleasure to either work with or just talk to, and they're great folk and they're all doing great work. I'm excited for the next one coming, but this one is the first one, and I implore you, did I use that word right? To donate $50 so I can mail it to you. Definitely check out We the Blues People Radio. We've got our committee together. Clap it up for that. That's right, we got our committee together. And we are still programming and working some technical kinks out, but until then, playlists are playing Start preparing because things are dropping. Sign up for the email blast. Yeah, and make sure. So check out our Substacks, where essentially all of this is going to live, including the Reflexive podcast. All right, we're going to talk about that next week. But for those of you who are already, thank you, man. We appreciate you. Those of you who are already tapped in, we I appreciate you because first and foremost, having all this information, and I'm just so happy that the Pearlies are my family's part of this because we talk about this all day every day. We get to talk to y'all about it. But having all this information and being able to disseminate it, I really ask you all to, if you want to help me, right? If you're saying, so I like what this brother's doing, I like what this cat's doing, how can I help me, particularly not just the platforms, right? Not just how can I get word out about the African American Folklorist magazine or ecosystem or Jack Dappa Blues Radio or Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation. If your question is, how can I help you, brother, because I like what you're doing, become a paid subscriber to my Substack. Because from this point on, that's where you're going to get the inner working. You want to help me personally? Become a paid member of my Substack. Okay?
Are you looking for volunteers for the telethon?
I'm definitely. So we got a great volunteer. So our sister Brown Native. And we're always looking for volunteers for the upcoming telethon, which is on August 8th. The telethon for our Porter Parish Granger Festival is August 8th. August 8th being the emancipation or the Juneteenth, if you will, of the Kentucky, Tennessee area. You thought I forgot. See? Why is that important? Because it wasn't designated by a president placating the black folk. It was created by the people of that region who said, yo, we did something that we need to celebrate about. Paducah has a great celebration every year. You know who else? Russellville, both in Kentucky. So on August 8th, we're going to do a telethon. You heard it here first. This is the first time we're announcing it publicly. Here first, August 8th, we are doing a telethon to raise funds for the Porter Parish Granger Blues Festival of Bowling Green. And that blues festival features and highlights piano blues, jump blues, classic blues, Delta blues. Porter Parish Granger was a pianist. He was a musical director for a Zora Neale Hurston play that ran in Chicago. He worked with Mamie Smith, actually, Jailhouse Blues. You can find that on YouTube. He worked with Fat Waller, Bessie Smith. I mean, he has a long catalog of music, and he had a publishing company. So what does this have to do with Bowling Green? Well, he essentially, until I believe about 16, grew up in the Southern Queen. Southern Queen is very instrumental because, one, it was a green stop house. It was a boarding house. And it also fed kids in the community. And then the folk in there, a lot of them were Fisk graduates, masters and PhD, black folk, and they educated the community, fed the community. And in that house grows Porter Parish Granger, who could easily be considered one of the premier contributors to early blues as we know it. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, make sure you mark that date. And again, if you want to help me become a paid member of my Substack, and I'm not asking you to help the platform, meaning African American Folklore or Jack Dappa Blues or We the Blues People Radio. I'm asking you to participate, because that's what this is about. Communal participation, baby. That's what it's about. You know, the last time I just said that's what it's about, I felt like Dick Gregory. Molly, you make me laugh. All right, good folk. So, I don't even know. I don't know. We did not get through all of it. So, the 13th Amendment, I did a piece on last year, maybe. You can go in my Blues Ecology series. Watch that. We'll be talking about that next week as well. But remember, actually, no. Next week, we're not going to be live, because next week we're going to be performing at the Exit 53 Blues Festival next weekend. Yes. So the following week we'll be back. All right. Yeah. So reach out, keep documenting, keep playing, keep singing, keep loving one another, right? Keep praying and take action, right? Faith without works is dead. Don't ever forget that. Faith without works is dead. Y'all have a blessed week. Think about something, take action, make sure you check on your people. All right?